are now on episode 4 of Dune Prophecy, Twice Born, and if you're still here, I feel like you're, like, in it till the end. And I have to say, I didn't know how good I had it last week. Like, as a Dune fan, there are definitely still some things I'm really interested in seeing play out and some big surprises we will talk about the end of this episode. But as a film and TV fan, the issues I have aren't going away, and I feel like we're getting a little lost in the sauce with this episode. So if you haven't seen Dune Prophecy episode 4, this is your official spoiler warning. And of course, let me know your thoughts. If you have seen it, we're gonna break down and comment on the events of the episode, and then we'll talk about big things we saw and overall thoughts at the end. So we start off seeing that many of the acolytes are having the same nightmare, with Sister Emmeline actually sleepwalking to the well and having a vision of Shai Hulud before she tries to cut her throat, just like we saw Sister Dorothea do. Luckily, Jen arrives in time to save her because she is seemingly the only one who didn't have this nightmare. And it might mean something more significant, but I think it's mostly just because we know Jen is the most free-thinking of all the acolytes. Then we kick off how Valia and the Harkonnens are gonna get along. There's still a lot of bad blood, especially between her and her uncle, but she offers them a spot on the High Council and herself as a truthsayer. Theodosia also seems in this scene to, like, read Baron Harrow's mind, like, in a different way than just being able to tell if someone is being truthful, and that has not been established as an ability of the Bene Gesserit, so I was kind of like, that makes no sense, but maybe it has something to do with her special talent, which we learn about down the line. We then see what's going on with House Carino. They're all having a meal together, and Princess Inez is very clearly suspicious about this rumor going around about Pruitt Rachese's death. His death is, like, very foundational to this episode. They're no longer allowing her to go to Wallach 9 with the Bene Gesserit, and it seems like it's happened like 7 times now that someone has been like, Desmond, did you kill Pruitt? And he's just like, yeah, I did. Meanwhile, some of the acolytes are starting to raise questions amongst all of these weird events going on, specifically about Sister Dorothea. Emmeline says there are stories and rumors about her, but Tula says that she took her own life out of grief after Reverend Mother Rakella died. Emmeline then tries to use the truth sense on her, so clearly they have not successfully squashed out Sister Dorothea's memory and mission, and all these lies are starting to pile up. We then start to see this very big event forming of all of the great houses and their leaders and their truthsayers showing up for the High Council of the Landsrad meeting. I once again convinced myself Orion Atreides was gonna show up, but no dice. I got my hopes up. We then get this quick scene of Desmond burning the pages of Kasha's Sisterhood book. Emperor Haviko asks Desmond if he spread the rumor about Pruitt Rachese's death, and Desmond confirms once again that he is loyal to the Imperium and he's loyal to the Emperor. But he's also still pushing the Emperor down this path of tyranny and encourages the Emperor to use him as a weapon. And it's another reminder that we kind of have zero idea what Desmond's motivations are and kind of why exactly he's so loyal to House Carino and dedicated to this duty to the Imperium. We then flash to the rebellion that we've been following, and this is like a big moment for Dune lore because it's the first time that we see an Ixian on screen. They are kind of backdoor peddling these thinking machines, and so the rebellion has purchased an autonomous drone with a thermal bomb from them. I don't know why they made the Ixian like a Guy Ritchie character. I was not a huge fan, but whatever, we see him for like 2 seconds. We then see Valia leaving a voice memo for Tula when she realizes that there's this kind of like spyware spider thing crawling out of the wall. And when Sister Theodosia comes in and confirms that the rebellion is going to launch this attack on the Landsrad, Valia essentially says that they're going to use this to try and thwart that attack to get back into the Emperor's good graces by saving his life. And she throws her knife at this spider machine to confirm that she certainly has the skills to do so. But she still needs to figure out a way to get House Harkonnen onto the High Council, and I think that this little montage and scene is a really excellent way of showing what the Bene Gesserit is so good at and how they manipulate things even in times when they don't have the direct power to do something. The whole deal is essentially that the houses are catching on that Pruitt Rachese was murdered, and they want to keep the power of the Emperor in check and launch an inquiry, but they're too afraid of the risks. So the Bene Gesserit are encouraging the houses to seek out House Harkonnen in a sort of win-win situation where House Harkonnen gets to join the High Council, but they have to take the brunt of it and launch the inquiry with the support of the other houses. And though it takes a little bit of convincing, they're so desperate to reclaim their dignity that Baron Harrow accepts. Now we get a really big scene that we'd seen a lot of in the previews, this like acolyte spice-induced drawing session that Tula runs. They're in this sort of trance and they allow their mind to just draw what their subconscious is seeing, and it goes from sort of surface level anxieties until they all align on drawing sand and then Shai Hulud and eventually, once again, these eyes of Tiryn Arafel that we've been seeing. And Sister Emmeline says, God is watching us, judging us. The reckoning is here. Then we get a scene between Desmond and Empress Natalia where it's actually confirmed that she was the one spreading the rumor about Desmond murdering Pruitt. She also wants to shore up the Emperor's wrath and power. She wants him to go down this tyrannical path. And hey, I support women's rights and women's fascisms. So now Desmond is sending guards after any thinking machine patrons and sympathizers, and they will be brought in during the Landsride meeting later on. Then Inez and Kieran run into each other at this bar again as Kieran is hanging out with his rebellion buddies. Varian Atreides name drop happens again. Why would you show it to me if I can't have it? They kiss again and he's like, no, I can't. I'm over it. We've kind of been over both of these things, but we get Valia and Theodosia talking about Theodosia's special talent, which we are not sure of yet. And we also get Tula and Sister Avila kind of reviewing the sisters' drawings. And here's our big set piece for the episode. It's the boys' courtroom scene. Once again, I thought Varian Atreides would show up and he did not. But Baron Harrow Harkonnen comes forward to officially launch the inquiry into Pruitt Rachese's death. Against who? Enter Princess Inez herself to say the Imperial House. And gasps are heard around the meeting room. Then Desmond once again, conceals nothing. He admits to Pruitt Rachese's death and says it's justified because he was using thinking machine technology. He also reveals that he was the one who stopped the rebellion attack, thwarting Valia's thwart. She's like, damn it. Kieran Atreides is like, oh shit. He gives one sly look at the Emperor and he's apparently good to go to start burning a bunch of people there up from the inside. And what's most interesting, I think, about this scene is that it not only takes a big toll on him physically, but we get this vision from his perspective of his time on Arrakis and the worm consuming him. And as he like enters the worm in this vision, we see the blue glowing eyes inside the worm and then them fusing together to be found in his eye. I don't know if it really reveals a lot of new information, but I think at this point, I know a lot of people have been theorizing that the eyes could be the God Emperor. I think that is like totally out of the question at this point. Also very important is that he leaves some blood on the surface in front of Valia, which she's like, oh, sneaky me, he left his blood here, let's put it into the breeding index, but I feel like he left it on purpose. Like, Desmond is clearly one step ahead of everyone at this point. Another big development, Lila is awake. She is risen. But we don't learn a lot yet about in what capacity. We talked a lot in the last video about the possibility of her being possessed by this ego memory, and now she seemingly has these blue and blue eyes because she was being treated in the spice chamber. And so this also fits the like twice born, once in blood, once in spice prophecy that we've been hearing. So we now have Lila and Desmond who fit this. And maybe most significant at all, we had a few big moments in this episode, but this ending, Sister Theodosia face dancer? I was messaging my friend Chris, aka Kit Laser, if you want podcast coverage of this show. They're like so great over at Streaming Things. And he was like, just wait for the end. And I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't that. So face dancers in the Dune universe are a kind of shapeshifter that was created by the Tleilaxu. And in the like behind the scenes bit they do after the episode, they confirmed that Theodosia is an early experiment by the Tleilaxu. So I feel like we can kind of say confidently that she's a face dancer. And it's pretty obvious at this point that this moment, while emotionally significant for Valia because Theo transforms into her late brother Griffin, this is also coming right after this argument with her uncle where she deprives him of his oxygen, essentially allowing him to die. This representation of the past of House Harkonnen, but also the only member left who is actually challenging her and seeing her manipulations for what they were. It was also their opportunity to reveal her power, as it's probably going to be used to disrupt things at the Capitol in some way, shape, or form. I have a lot of questions, as with every week. We'll see how they wrap all of this up with only 2 episodes left after this. But the big things, just to recap, that we saw in this episode were really big developments with Valia and the Harkonnens, the way that Pruitt Rachese's death has become a very significant political event, the way that all the smoke screens are down around the Emperor. I mean, it's out and proud that Desmond murdered Pruitt Rachese, and that now the Emperor can use him as a weapon against anyone that he wants. There are no longer any checks and balances there. Lila has risen from the dead, but we don't know how much of her original self is actually still there, and that Sister Theodosia is a face dancer. So again, from the Dune standpoint, there's a lot of exciting stuff that we're seeing that we don't get from the Villeneuve films, like Ixians and Tleilaxu technology. But maybe in this episode, most of all, in the season so far, I just feel like there are so many characters and threads that we're juggling. And I see how they're all connected, but at the same time, there are like certain things that I'm more invested in, and I feel like this other stuff is taking time away from those. Like, I want longer scenes and fewer plot points. It, funnily enough, kind of feels like the structure of the Brian Herbert prequels, because those books are structured in like really short, choppy chapters that bounce from character to character. But that can be a frustrating way to consume a 6-episode season of a show. Like, it really feels like this is being stretched out to the very end, and we're kind of seeing redundant ideas and moments. Like, in certain ways, we're almost ahead of the characters, and we're ready to see this information revealed, but we're not quite getting those answers yet. So hopefully the conclusion is worth it, and I'm wrong, and it's all coming to this head, and we're going to be super happy about it. We will see over the next 2 weeks, but let me know your thoughts on Dune Prophecy Episode 4, guys. This has been kind of fun. I'm excited for the next 2 weeks, so if you're watching, make sure to like and subscribe, and keep an eye out for more videos soon. Thanks for watching.